Welcome to the DragonLance Saga Gaming Advanced Dungeons & Dragons episode. This is the 7th in the series. It is Baraka Fierswelt the 24th. My name is Adam. Dragonlance came out of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, so I thought it would be fun to read the core rules aloud and discuss them with a live audience. I'd like to take a moment and thank my collaborator patrons, the Heroes of the Lance, and invite you to consider becoming a patron or member of this channel by visiting the links in the description below. You can even pick up Dragonlance gaming materials using my affiliate link. Now, this is actually wrong because I'm on Druid spells, not Cleric. So let's fix that. Throughout the course of this, if you haven't tuned into one of these before, I'm going to be bouncing back and forth. Hey, Skull Cowboy, thanks for joining live, man. I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between illustrations in the actual book itself and then just random images of Player's Handbook and Player's Handbook art. So, chime in if you want to chime in and you have something to say about what we're talking about or Advanced in Dragons in general, or hell, anything you want to talk about. And we'll just try to make this a good time. It's Saturday morning. I've got a really hot day of yard work ahead of me that I'm not looking forward to. So let's delay the inevitable a little bit here. And start, sorry, getting a sip of water there. Wet my whistle, as it were. Start with 7th level spells from Druid spells. Animate Rock, alteration. By employing an Animate Rock spell, the Druid causes a lithic object of a size up to that indicated to move. See Animated Object, the 6th level Cleric spell. The animated stone object must be separate, i.e. not a piece of a huge boulder or the like. It will follow the desire of the Druid casting the spell, attacking, breaking objects, blocking, while the magic lasts. It has no intelligence, nor volition of its own, but it follows the instructions exactly as spoken. Note that only one set of instructions for one single action, the whole being simply worded and very brief, 12 words or so, can be given to the rock animated. The rock remains animated for one melee round per level of experience for the spell caster, and the volume of rock which can be animated is also based on the experience level of the Druid. 2 cubic feet of stone per level, i.e. 24 cubic feet at the 12th level. Your first persona in gaming was a druid that turned to necromancy. Interesting. I never played a druid. Like, ever. So I have no basis. I understand the character role based on the player's handbook description and stuff, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Chariot of Sestar. Evocation. When this spell is cast by a druid, it brings forth a large flaming chariot pulled by 2 fiery horses, which appear in a clap of thunder amidst cloud-like smoke. This vehicle moves at 24 inches on the ground, 48 inches flying, and it can carry the druid and up to 8 other man-sized creatures whom he or she first touches, so as to enable these creatures to be able to ride aboard this burning transport. Creatures other than the druid and his or her designated passengers will sustain damage equal to that of a wall of fire spell. Oh my gosh. If they're within 5 feet of the horses or chariot, voluntarily or involuntarily. The druid controls a chariot by verbal command, causing the flaming steeds to stop or go, walk, trot, run, or fly, turning left or right as he or she desires. Note that the Chariot of Sestar is a physical manifestation and can sustain damage. The vehicle and steeds are struck only by magical weapons or by water, 1 quart of which will cause 1 hit point of damage. They're armor class 2 and each require 30 hit points of damage to dispel. Naturally, fire has absolutely no effect upon either the vehicle or its steeds, but magical fires will affect the riders if they're exposed to them, other than the horses or the chariot itself. In addition to mistletoe, the druid casting the spell must have a small piece of wood, 2 holy berries, and a fire source at least equal to a torch. Confusion, enchantment charm. This spell causes confusion in 1 or more creatures within spell range. Confused creatures will react as follows. Based on the D10 die roll for going up to 100. Action, wander away for 1 turn. Stand confused for 1 round. Attack nearest creature for 1 round. Or attack druid or his party for 1 round. This spell lasts for 1 melee round for each level of experience of the spellcaster. It will affect 2 to 8 creatures, plus a possible additional number of creatures determined by subtracting the level or number of hit dice of the strongest opponent, the creature within the spell range and area of effect from the level of the druid who casts a spell of confusion. If a positive number results, it is added to the random die roll result for number of creatures affected. A negative number is ignored. All creatures affected by those closest to the druid within the area of effect, each affected creature will make a saving throw each round unless they are caused to wander away for one turn, in which case they will go as far away from the druid as possible in one turn of normal movement, as conditions permit. All saving throws are at -2. Confused creatures act according to the table of actions shown above, but saving throws and actions are checked at the beginning of each round. Conjure Elemental Earth. Actually, I must be dyslexic. Conjure Earth Elemental. Conjuration, summoning, reversible. When a druid casts a Conjure Earth Elemental spell, he or she summons an Earth Elemental of 16 hit dice to do the druid's bidding. Furthermore, the druid need but command it, and then do as he or she desires, for the elemental does not regard the druid who conjured it with enmity. The elemental remains until destroyed, dispelled, or sent away by dismissal. I actually really love using the material components in the game as well. And it's all because of the Dungeon Master's Guide, where it actually shows a list of like herbs and roots and stuff like that and their supposed effects. I thought that was just so cool that if you're going to be the most powerful, type of a character, like a spell user at higher levels, then there should be something to help balance that out, which means semantic and material components. All right, control weather, alteration. The druidic control weather spell is more powerful than the clerical spell of the same name. The spellcaster is able to change weather by 2 places from the prevailing conditions. If greater mistletoe is used, it otherwise is the same as the 7th level cleric control weather spell. Creeping Doom, conjuration summoning. When the druid utters the spell of Creeping Doom, he or she calls forth a mass of from 500 to 1,000 d6 plus 4, venomous, biting, and stinging arachnids, insects, and myriapods. This carpet-like mass will swarm in an area of 2 inches square, and upon command from the druid, will creep forth at 1 inch per round towards any prey within 8 inches, moving in the direction in which the druid commanded. The Creeping Doom will slay any creature subject to normal attacks, each of the small horrors inflicting 1 hit point of damage. Each then dies after the attack, so that up to 1,000 hit points of damage can be inflicted on creatures within the path of the Creeping Doom. If the Creeping Doom goes beyond 8 inches of the summoner, it loses 50 of its number for each 1 inch beyond 8 inches, i.e. at 10 inches, its number is shrunk by 100. There are a number of ways to thwart or destroy the creatures forming the swarm, all of which methods should be obvious. Stepping on them. Get the Lord of the Dance to come get rid of this Creeping Doom. I just like Irish step dances almost. That'd be great. All right. Finger of Death, enchantment charm. The Finger of Death spell causes the victim's heart to stop. The druid utters the incantation, points his or her index finger at the creature to be slain, and unless victim succeeds in making the appropriate saving throw, death occurs. A successful saving throw negates the spell. Reminds me of Lord Soth. It reminds me of Willow. I mean, that's great. Super creepy. Firestorm. Evocation reversible. When a firestorm spell is cast by a druid, a whole area is shot through with sheets of roaring flame, which are equal to a wall of fire in effect. Creatures within the area of fire and 1 inch or less from the edge of the affected area receive 2 to 16 hit points of damage plus additional hit points equal to the number of levels of experience of the druid unless they make a saving throw, in which case they take only 1/2 damage. The area of effect is equal to 2 cubic inches per level of the druid, i.e. a 13th level druid can cast a firestorm which measures 13 inches by 2 inches by 1 inch. The height of the storm is 1 inch or 2 inches. The balance of the area must be in length and width. The reverse spell, Fire Quench, smothers double the area of effect of a firestorm with respect to normal fires, and with respect to magical fires, it has a 5% chance per level of the caster of extinguishing a magical fire, such as a firestorm, of proportions up to the normal area of effect of the non-reverse spell. That doesn't sound like such a terrible wall. 13 inches by 2 inches by 1 inch, you could walk over that. Just take a step and you're fine. Oh, that's wild. Reincarnation, necromantic. Druids have the capability of bringing back the dead in another body if death occurred no more than a week before the casting of the spell. The person reincarnated will recall the majority of his or her former life and form, but the class they have, if any, in their new incarnation may be different indeed. Abilities and speech are likewise often changed. The table below gives the reincarnation possibilities of this spell. All right, I'm going to show you this because this is ridiculous. Let's say you're, a 20th level fighter or wizard who dies, and this druid is going to reincarnate you. These are the options that they can reincarnate you into. A wolverine? A lynx? An elf? A wild boar? Like, you're screwed. You're totally screwed. The die roll. It's totally up to the die roll. That's the worst. Just go to a cleric and be brought back to life. Raised dead. Don't be reincarnated, people. That's terrible. All right, and any sort of player character can be reincarnated. If an elf, gnome, or human is indicated, the character must be recreated. When the corpse is touched, the new incarnation will appear in an area within 1 to 6 turns. 6th level magic user spell, reincarnation. All right, last one of the Druid's 7th level spells, transmute metal to wood, alteration. The transmute metal to wood spell allows the Druid casting it to change an object from metal to wood. The volume of metal is equal to a maximum weight of 80 gold pieces per level of experience. Magical objects of metal are only 10% likely to be affected by the spell. Note that even a dispel magic spell would not reverse the spell effects. Thus, a metal door changed to wood would be forevermore a wooden door. That's a bold move to transmute someone's holy avenger to wood. Talk about making a statement. All right. We are now done with Druid spells. It is time for magic user spells. Oh yeah. Notes regarding magic user spells. Magic users employ a greater variety of material components than do other character classes employing spells, i.e. clerics and druids. Some of the required components will be difficult to find and or expensive, but alternative spells can also be chosen. The relatively short casting time for these spells with a material component assumes that the magic user has decided upon which spell he or she will employ, and the material or materials needed are at hand in numerous pockets and folds of the magic user's garb. If this is not the case, there will be a delay commensurate to the situation. It has been recommended to the referee that actual time relates to the game time in such situations, if at all possible. If it takes 6 seconds to decide on which spell to cast, 1 segment of the round is gone. Having to search through a pocket to locate some components is as good as wasting 5 segments, or 30 seconds. Substitute materials might be allowed. This is up to your dungeon master. It should be noted that such substitution could affect spell range, duration, area of effect, etc. In general, reversible or multiple application spells require the magic user to determine which form he or she is memorizing prior to the adventure. Consult your referee in this regard. All right, Firestorm should evoke terror in game. Yeah, I agree. You never trusted clerics. Nice. Yeah, that would be interesting. Suddenly you have the iron in your blood turns into like splinters. That's why you like necromancy. Most things come from a body living or dead. Yeah, that's true. All right, let's dive into first level spells, everyone. This is going to be fun. Effect, normal fires, alteration. This spell enables the magic user to cause small fires from as much as a torch or lantern to as large as a normal bonfire of 3 feet maximum diameter. To reduce in size and light to become much like or match like or increase in light so as to become as bright as a light spell. Reducing fire will cut fuel consumption to half normal, and increasing the fire will double consumption. Note that heat output is not altered in either case. Burning hands, alteration. When the magic user casts this spell, jets of searing flame shoot from his or her fingertips. Hands can only be held so as to send forth a fan-like sheet of flame, as the magic user's thumbs must touch each other and fingers. The magic user's thumbs must touch each other, and fingers must be spread. Okay. The Burning Hands sends out flame jets of 3 feet length in a horizontal arc of about 120 degrees in front of the magic user. Any creatures in that area of flame takes 1 hit point of damage for each level of experience of the caster, and no saving throw is possible. Inflammable materials touched by the fire will burn, i.e. cloth, paper, parchment, thin wood, etc. Charm Person. Enchantment Charm. Except as shown above, this spell is the same as the second level Druid spell, Charm Person or Mammal, but the magic user can charm only persons, i.e. brownies, dwarves, elves, gnomes, gnolls, goblins, half-elves, halflings, half-orcs, hobgoblins, humans, kobolds, lizardmen, nixies, orcs, pixies, sprites, and troglodytes. All other components regarding this spell effects apply with respect to persons. Comprehend languages. Alteration. Reversible. When this spell is cast, the magic user is able to read an otherwise incomprehensible written message, such as a treasure map, but not a magical writing, other than to know it is magic, or understand the language of a speaking creature. In either case, the magic user must touch the object to be read or the creature to be understood, and the spell does not enable the spellcaster to write or speak the language. The material component of the spell are a pinch of soot and a few grains of salt. The reverse, confuse languages, prevents comprehension or cancels a comprehend languages spell. I prefer just getting Taz to pull out his spectacles and read for me, given the choice here. I just noticed that I have not been recording the time on each of these levels, so I'm gonna have to. I make a time stamp for all of you to sort of jump back and forth if you're ever inclined to do so, to get to specific levels or topics. And yeah, that requires me to make notes, and I wasn't. Sorry. All right, Dancing Lights. Alteration. When a Dancing Lights spell is cast, the magic user creates at his or her option from 1 to 4 lights which resemble either A, torches and or lanterns, and cast that amount of light, B, glowing spheres of light, such as evidenced by will-o-wisps, or C, one faintly glowing, vaguely man-like shape, somewhat similar to that of a creature from the elemental plane of fire. The dancing lights move as the spellcaster desires, forward or back, straight or turning corners, without concentration upon such movement by the magic user. The spell will wink out if the range or duration is exceeded. Range is a base of 4 inches plus 1 inch for each level of the magic user who casts the spell. Duration is 2 melee rounds per level of the spellcaster. The material component of this spell is either a bit of phosphorus, or witchwood, or a glowworm. And I want to show you this illustration because I love them. They're so great. I imagine like some, oh gosh, what is the sound of that instrument that's just, you're just moving a stick between like some magnetized space or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, but it makes like this woo sound. Anyway, that's the audio I imagine when I'm looking at this image. Doorknob of a Kender. Detect Magic, Divination. The only differences between this spell and the first level Cleric Detects Magic spell are noted above. Duration, area of effect, and no material component. Enlarge. Alteration Reversible. This spell causes instant growth of a creature or object. Enlargement causes increase in both size and weight. It can be cast upon only a single creature or object. Spell range is 1/2 inch for each level of experience of the magic user, and its duration is 1 turn plus level of experience of the spell caster. The effect of the enlargement spell is to increase the size of a living creature, a symbiotic or community entity, by 20% per level of experience of the magic user, with a maximum additional growth of 200%. The effect on objects is 1/2 that of creatures, i.e. 10% per level to a 100% maximum additional enlargement. The creature or object must be seen in order to affect the spell. The maximum volume of living material can be initially affected as 10 cubic feet. For non-living matter, 5 cubic feet per level of the magic user. While magical properties are not increased by the spell, a huge +1 sword is still only +1, a staff-sized wand is still only capable of its normal functions, a giant-sized potion merely requires a greater fluid intake to make its magical effects operate, etc. Weight, mass, and strength are. Thus, a table blocking a door would be heavier and more effective. A hurled stone would have more mass and be more hurtful, providing enlargement took place just prior to impact. Chains would become more massive, doors thicker, a thin line turned to a sizable, longer rope, and so on. Likewise, a person 12 feet tall would be as an ogre, while an 18-foot tall person would actually be a giant for the duration of the spell. The reverse spell, Reduce, will negate the effects or actually make creatures or objects smaller in the same ratios as the regular spell application functions. Unwilling victims of the spell, or its reverse, are entitled to a saving throw, which, if successful, indicates the magic does not function and the spell is wasted. The material components for the spell is a pinch of powdered iron. Erase. Alteration. A little bit. The material component is the underside of a mushroom. So, erase, alteration. The erase spell removes writings from either magical or mundane nature from a scroll or 1 or 2 pages, or sheets of paper, parchment, or similar surfaces. It will not remove explosive runes or a symbol, see spells hereafter, however. There is a base chance of 50% plus 2% per level of experience of the spellcaster, and with respect to magical writings, plus 4% per level of mundane writing, that the spell will take effect. This represents the saving throw, and any percentile dice shown in excess of the adjusted percentage chance means the spell fails. Featherfall. Alteration. When this spell is cast, the creatures or objects affected immediately assumes the mass of a feathery piece of down. Rate of falling is thus instantly changed to a mere constant 2 feet per second or 12 feet per segment, and no damage is incurred when landing with the spell is in effect. However, when the spell duration ceases, normal rate of fall occurs. The spell can be cast upon the magic user or some other creature or object, up to the maximum range of 1 inch per level of magic of experience for the spellcaster. It lasts for 1 segment for each level of the magic user. The featherfall affects an area of 1 cubic inch, and the maximum weight of creatures and or objects cannot exceed a combined total equal to a base 2,000 gold piece weight, plus 2,000 gold pieces weight per level of the spellcaster. Example, a second level magic user has a range of 2 inches, a duration of 2 segments, a weight maximum of 6,000 gold pieces, or 600 pounds, when employing the spell. The spell works upon only free-falling or propelled objects. It will not affect a sword blow or a charging creature, but it will affect a missile. The material component is a small feather or a piece of down somewhere on the person of the spellcaster. A missile. How would that work with initiative? If someone like a giant's throwing a boulder at you? I don't know. Doesn't seem very effective in actual gameplay. Find it familiar. Conjuration summoning. A familiar is of certain benefit to a magic user as the creature adds to the spellcaster's hit points. It conveys its sensory power to its master, and it can converse with and will serve as a guard, scout, spy as well. However, the magic user has no control over what sort of creature will answer the summoning, or if any at a time will come, and the power of the conjuration is such that it can be attempted but once per year, at such time as the magic user determines to find a familiar. He or she must stoke up a brass brazier with charcoal, and when this is burning well, add 100 gold pieces worth of incense, herbs, basil, savory, and catnip for sure, and fat. When these items are burning, the spellcaster begins his or her incantation, and it must be continued until a familiar comes where the casting time is finished. Your referee will secretly determine all results. The magic user has absolutely no control over what sort of a creature appears to become his or her familiar. This will be determined on the table below. What do you guys think about not having a choice about the familiar? So here's what we've got here. A cat, a crow, a hawk, an owl, a toad, a weasel. Ooh, special table. No familiar. All right, let's look at the special table. Quasit, a pseudo-dragon, a brownie, or an imp. That's awesome. Ugh. What would your ideal familiar be if you could have one? I mean, my real-life familiars are dogs. We have chickens too, but dogs are definitely the familiars. I want an imp. Like, I think imps just look awesome. Little like, evil cherubs. You know, like big old baby belly. That's hilarious. Okay. If a score of 15 is rolled, use the table below for a special familiar. Normal familiars have 2 to 4 hit points and an armor class of 6 due to size, speed, etc. Each is abnormally intelligent and totally faithful to the magic user whose familiar it becomes. The number of the familiar's hit points is added to the hit point total of the magic user when it is within 12 inches of its master. But if the familiar should ever be killed, the magic user will permanently lose double that number of hit points. If a special familiar is indicated, details of the power it conveys are given in the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual for all except the brownie. The creature becomes a friend and companion to the magic user, and he or she will gain dexterity equal to the brownie's 18 and the advantage of never being surprised, as well as +2 in all saving throws. Note that special familiars are entitled to a saving throw versus magic when summoned by the spell, and if they succeed, they will ignore the spell and no familiar will be available that year to the caster. A familiar will fight for the life of the magic user it serves only in a life and death situation, and imps and quasits will be 90% likely not to do so at risk of their own life. Friends. Enchantment Charm. A Friends spell causes the magic user to gain a temporary increase of 2 to 8 points of charisma, or a temporary lowering of charisma by 1 to 4 points, depending on whether creatures within the area of effect of the spell make or fail their saving throw versus magic. Those that fail the saving throw will be very impressed with the spell caster and desire greatly to be his or her friend and help. Those who do not fail will be uneasy in the spellcaster's presence and tend to find him or her irritating. Note that this spell has absolutely no effect on creatures of animal intelligence or lower. The components of the spell are chalk or white flour, lamp black or soot, and vermilion applied to the face before casting the spell. Just as a suggestion in your games, maybe not go in blackface to try to enchant new friends. I'm not sure that's going to have the effect you think it will. White flavor. They're literally telling you to put on whiteface or blackface. That's insane. Don't do it, people. Oh my gosh. Hold portal, alteration. This spell magically bars a door, gate, or value of wood, metal, or stone. The magical closure holds the portal fast just as if it were securely stopped and locked. The range of the spell is 2 inches per level of experience of the caster, and it lasts for 1 round per level. Note that any extra dimensional creature, demon, devil, elemental, etc., will shatter such a held portal. A magic user of 4 or more experience levels higher than the spell caster can open the held portal at will. A knock spell or dispel magic spell will negate the hold portal. Held portals can be broken or battered down. Identify, divination. When an identify spell is cast, one item may be touched and handled by the magic user in order that he or she may possibly find what dweomer it possesses. The item in question must be held or worn as would be normal for any such object, i.e. a bracelet must be placed on the caster's wrist, a helm on his or her head, boots on the feet, a cloak worn, a dagger held, and so on. Note that any consequences for this use of the item fail fully upon the magic user, although any saving throw normally allowed is still privileged by the magic user. For each segment the spell is in force, it is 15% plus 5% per level of the magic user probable that one property of the object touch can become known. Possibly that the item has no properties and is merely a ruse, the presence of Nistel's magic aura or a magic mouth being detected. Each time a property can be known, the referee will secretly roll to see if the magic user made his or her saving throw versus magic. If the save was successful, the property is known. If it is 1 point short, a false power will be revealed, and if it is lower than 1 under the required score, no information will be gained. The item will never reveal its exact pluses to hit or its damage bonuses, although the fact that it has few or many such pluses can be discovered. If it is charges, the object will never reveal the exact number, but it will give information which is plus or minus 25% of actual, i.e., a wand with 40 charges could feel as if it had 30 or 50 or any number in between. The item will be identified much as must be examined by the magic user within 1 hour per level of experience of the examiner after it has been discovered, or all readable impressions will have been blended into those of the characters who have possessed it since. After casting the spell and determining what can be learned from it, the magic user loses 8 points of constitution. He or she must rest for 6 turns plus 1 point in order to regain them. If the 8-point loss drops the spellcaster below a constitution of 3, he or she will fall unconscious, and consciousness will not be regained until full constitution is restored 24 hours later. The material component of this spell are a pearl of at least 100 gold piece value and an owl feather steeped in wine, with the infusion drunk and a live miniature carp swallowed whole prior to casting. If a luck stone is powdered and added to the infusion, probability increases 25%, and all saving throws are made at +4. Okay, hold on. Hold on a second. So in order to do this, you have to crush a 100 gold piece pearl, get a feather steeped in wine, drink the infused drink, and then swallow a live miniature carp whole. And then you're not even guaranteed. So you're going to have like heartburn, you're going to get a buzz, and you may not even know what the hell the item is. That seems kind of shitty. Just my opinion. Jump alteration. When this spell is cast, the individual is empowered to leap up to 30 feet forward or 10 feet backward or straight upward. Horizontal leaps forward or backward are in only a slight arc, about 2 feet or 10 feet of distance traveled. The jump spell does not ensure any safety in landing or grasping at the end of the leap. For every 3 additional levels of experience of the magic user behind the first, he or she is able to empower 1 additional leap. So a 4th level magic user can cast a jump spell, which enables the recipient to make 2 leaps, 3 leaps at 7th level, etc. All leaps must be completed within 1 turn after the spell's cast, for after that period has elapsed, the spell wears off. The material component of this spell is a grasshopper's hind leg, 1 for each leap, to be broken when the leap is made. Oh, poor grasshoppers, giving up their legs so people can jump around like Superman. Light alteration. With the exceptions noted above, the spell is the same as the 1st level cleric light spell. Magic missile, evocation. Use of the magic missile spell creates 1 or more magic missiles which dart forth from the magic user's fingertip and unerringly strike their target. Each missile does 2 to 5 hit points, d4 plus 1 of damage. If the magic user has multiple missiles capability, he or she can have them strike a single target creature or several creatures as desired for each level of experience of the magic user. The range of his or her magic missiles extends 1 inch beyond the 6-inch base range for every 2 levels of experience. The magic users gain an additional missile, i.e. 2 at 3rd level, 3 at 5th level, 4 at 7th level, etc. Mending alteration. This spell repairs small breaks in objects. It will weld a broken ring, chain link, medallion, or slender dagger, providing but 1 break exists. Ceramic or wooden objects with multiple breaks can be invisibly rejoined to be as strong as new. A hole in a leather sack or wineskin is completely healed over by a mending spell. The spell will not repair magic items of any kind. The material components of this spell are 2 small magnets of any type, lodestone in all likelihood, or 2 burrs. Message alteration. When this spell is cast, the magic user can whisper a message and secretly or openly point his finger while doing so, and the whispered message will travel in a straight line and be audible to the creature pointed at. The message must fit spell duration, and if there is time remaining, the creature who received the message can whisper a reply and be heard by the spellcaster. Note that there must be an open and unobstructed path between the spellcaster and the recipient of the spell. The material component of the spell is a short piece of copper drawn fine. Nistul's Magic Aura. Illusion Phantasm. I can't even speak. By means of this spell, any 1 item of a weight of 50 gold pieces per level of experience of the spellcaster can be given an aura which will be noticed if detection of magic is exercised upon the object. If the object bearing the Nistul's magic aura is actually held by the creature detecting for a dweomer, he or she or it is entitled to a saving throw versus magic. And if the saving throw is successful, the creature knows that the aura has been placed to mislead the unwary. Otherwise, the aura is simply magical, but no amount of testing will reveal what the magic is. The component for this spell is a small square of silk, which must be passed over the object to bear the aura. Protection from evil, reversible. With the differences shown above and the requirements of powder, iron, and silver as the material components for tracing the magic circle for protection from evil, the spell is the same as the first level cleric protection from evil spell. Push, conjuration, summoning. Upon pronouncing the syllables of this spell, the magic user causes an invisible force to strike against whatever object he or she is pointing at. The force of the push is not great, being 1 foot-pound per level of magic user casting the spell, but it can move small objects up to 1 foot in a direction directly away from the caster, topple an object under the proper conditions, or cause a creature to lose its balance. An example of the latter use is causing a creature attacked to lose its balance when it is attacking, for if the creature fails its saving throw, it will not be able to attack that round. Of course, the mass of the creature attacking cannot exceed the force of the push by more than a factor of 50, i.e. a first-level magic user cannot effectively push a creature weighing more than 50 pounds. A push spell employed against an object held by a creature will cause it to subtract the force of the spell in foot-pounds, 1, 2, 3, etc., from its chance to hit or add to opponent's saving throws as applicable if the creature fails to make its saving throw against magic when the spell is cast. The material component of the spell is a small pinch of powdered brass, which must be blown from the palm prior to pointing at the object of the spell. Read magic. Reversible. Divination. Ooh, we've got an image. Awesome. By means of a read magic spell, the magic user is able to read magical inscriptions on objects, books, scrolls, weapons, and the like, which would otherwise be totally unintelligible to him or her. The personal book of the magic user and works already magically read are intelligible. This deciphering does not normally invoke a magic contained in the writing, although it may do so in the case of a curse scroll. Furthermore, once the spell is cast and the magic user has read the magical inscription, he or she is thereafter able to read that particular writing without recourse to the use of the read magic spell. The duration of the spell is 2 rounds per level of experience of the spellcaster. The material component for the spell is a clear crystal or mineral prism. Note that the material is not expended by use. The reverse of the spell, unreadable magic, makes such writing completely unreadable to any creature, even with the aid of a read magic, until the spell wears off or the magic is dispelled. The material component of the reverse spell are a pinch of dirt and a drop of water. Shocking Grasp, alteration. When the magic user casts this spell, he or she develops a powerful electrical charge, which gives a jolt to the creature touched. The Shocking Grasp delivers from 1 to 8 hit points of damage, d8 plus 1 hit point per level of the magic user, i.e. a second level magic user would discharge a shock causing 3 to 10 hit points of damage. While the magic user must only come close enough to his or her opponent to lay a hand on the opponent's body or upon an electrical conductor which touches the opponent's body, a like touch from the opponent does not discharge the spell. Sleep, enchantment, charm. When a magic user casts a sleep spell, he or she will usually cause a comatose slumber to come upon one or more creatures, other than undead and certainly other creatures specifically excluded. See Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual from the spell's effects. All creatures to be affected by the sleep spell must be within a 3-inch diameter circle. The number of creatures which can be affected is a function of their life energy levels expressed as hit dice and hit points. And you can see a little chart here. The creature's hit dice by the number affected by the spell. The area of effect is determined by the range and area center decided upon by the spellcaster. Slapping or wounding will awaken affected creatures, but noise will not do so. Awakening requires 1 complete melee round. Note that sleeping creatures can be slain automatically at a rate of 1 per slayer per melee round. The material component for this spell is a pinch of fine sand, rose petals, or a live cricket. That's actually my favorite way of dispatching creatures in Champions of Krynn video game, is just have a whole bunch of spellcasters memorizing sleep and then just start casting sleep on everything, and then having your fighter or your thief or whatever go up and just one-off them. It's just the most effective way to kill people. Spider Climb, alteration. A spider climb spell enables the recipient to climb and travel upon vertical surfaces just as a giant spider is able to do, i.e., at 3-inch movement rate, or even hang upside down from ceilings. Note that the effective creature must have bare hands and feet in order to climb in this manner. During the course of the spell, the recipient cannot handle objects with weight less than 50 gold pieces, for such objects would stick to the creature's hands-feet, so a magic user will find it virtually impossible to cast spells if under a spider climb dweomer. The material component of the spell are a drop of bitumen, I don't know what that is, and a live spider, both of which must be eaten by the spell recipient. What? You gotta eat a live spider? No, thank you. I will not be spider climbing anywhere. All right, that's creepy. Ugh. Tensor's Floating Disc, Evocation. With this spell, the caster creates the circular plane of null gravity, known as Tensor's Floating Disc, after the famed wizard of the Appellation, whose ability to locate treasure and his greed to recover every copper found are well known. The disc is concave, 3 inches in diameter, and holds 1,000 gold pieces weight per level of the magic user casting the spell. The disc floats at approximately 3 feet above the ground at all times and remains level likewise. It maintains a constant interval of 6 feet between itself and the magic user if unbidden. It will otherwise move within its range as well as along with him at a rate of 6 inches, at the command of the magic user. If the spellcaster moves beyond range, or if the spell duration expires, the floating disc winks out of existence, and whatever it was supporting is precipitated to the surface beneath it. The material component of this spell is a drop of mercury. There's so many situations where Tensor's Floating Disc is invaluable. It's a great spell. And I think it's the spell that Fizban cast in Dragon Spring Dawning when the heroes were crossing that bridge with all the Draconians chasing them. Like, I think that's what he cast. Anyway, in my hand canon it is. Unseen Servant, Conjuring, Summoning. The Unseen Servant is a non-visible valet, a butler, to step and fetch, open doors and hold chairs, as well as to clean and mend. This spell creates a force which is not strong, but which obeys the command of the magic user. It can carry only lightweight items, a maximum of 200 gold pieces weight suspended, twice that amount moving across a relatively friction-free surface, such as a smooth stone or wood floor. It can only open normal doors, drawers, lids, etc. The Unseen Servant cannot fight, nor can it be killed, as it is a force rather than a creature. It can be magically dispelled or eliminated after taking 6 hit points of damage. The material components of the spell are a piece of string and a bit of wood. Ventriloquism, Illusion, Phantasm. This spell enables the magic user to make it sound as if his or her voice, or someone's voice or similar sound, is issuing from someplace else, such as from another creature, a statue, from behind a door, down a passage, etc. The spellcaster is able to make his or her voice sound as if a different creature were speaking or making the noise, of course, in a language known by him or her, or a sound which the caster can normally make. With respect to such voices and sounds, there is a 10% chance per point of intelligence above 12 of the hearer that the ruse will be recognized. The material component of the spell is a small cone of parchment. This doesn't make sense. Like, the spell description is great until you realize that the magic user has to speak into a cone. Just by witnessing that, you know that it's not really coming from the direction. That's so strange. The use of that just like dropped to nothing. That's really funny. Right. Evocation. And we've got a little illustration too. By means of this spell, a magic user might be able to inscribe a spell he or she cannot understand at the time, due to level or lack of sufficient intelligence, into the tome or other compilation he or she employs to maintain a library of spells. The magic user must make a saving throw versus magic to attempt the writing of any spell, +2 if it's only up to 1 level greater than he or she currently uses, 0 at 2 levels higher, and -1 per level from 3 levels higher onward. If this throw fails, the magic user is subject to 1 to 4 of damage for every level of the spell he or she was attempting to transcribe into his or her magic book, and furthermore, can be knocked unconscious for the like number of turns. This damage is not fatal, can only be healed at the rate of 1 to 4 points per day, as it is damage to psyche and body. Furthermore, a spell will take 1 hour per level to transcribe in this fashion, and during this period the magic user is in a trance state and can always be surprised by any foe. In addition to the writing surface upon which the spell is to be transcribed, the spellcaster needs a fine ink composed of rare substances, minimum cost 200 gold pieces per bottle, if available at all without manufacture by the magic user. Alright, we are finally at the second level spells. Second level spells, Audible Glamour, Illusion Phantasm. When the Audible Glamour spell is cast, the magic user causes a volume of sound to arise at whatever distance he or she desires within range, and seeming to recede, close, or remain in a fixed place as desired. The volume of sound caused, however, is directly related to the level of the spellcaster. The relative noise is based upon the lowest level at which the spell can be cast, third level. The noise of the Audible Glamour at this level is that of 4 men maximum. Each additional experience level adds a like volume, so at 4th level, the magic user can have the spell cause sound equal to that of 8 men maximum. Thus, talking, singing, or shouting and or walking, marching, or running sounds can be caused. The auditory illusion created by an Audible Glamour spell can be virtually any type of sound, but the relative volume must be commensurate with the level of the magic user casting the spell. A horde of rats running and squeaking is about the same volume as 8 men running and shouting. A roaring lion is equal to the noise volume of 16 men, while a roaring dragon is equal to that noise volume of no fewer than 24 men. If a character states that he or she does not believe the sound, a saving throw is made, and if it succeeds, the character then hears nothing, or possibly just a faint sound. Note that this spell is particularly effective when cast in conjunction with phantasmal force. See below. The material component of the spell is a bit of wool or a small lump of wax. Continual Light. Alteration. This spell is the same as the 3rd level cleric spell, Continual Light, except that the range is only 6 inches, not 12 inches, and it cannot be reversed by the caster. Darkness. 15-foot radius. Alteration. This spell causes total impenetrable darkness in the area of its effect. Infravision and or ultravision are useless. Neither normal nor magical light will work unless a light or continual light spell is used. In the former event, the darkness spell is negated by the light spell, and vice versa. The material components of the spell are a bit of bat fur and either a drop or pitch or a piece of coal. Detect evil, divination, reversible. Except as noted above, this spell is the same as the 1st level cleric spell, Detect Evil. Detect Invisible, divination. When the magic user casts a Detect Invisibility spell, he or she is able to clearly see any objects which are invisible, as well as astral, ethereal, hidden, invisible, or out-of-phase creatures. Detection is in the magic user's line of sight along a 1-inch wide path to the range limit. The material component of this spell are a pinch of talc and a small sprinkling of powdered silver. ESP, divination. When an ESP spell is used, the caster is able to detect the surface thoughts of any creature in range, except creatures with no mind as we know it, such as all of the undead. The ESP is stopped by 2 or more feet of rock, 2 or more inches of any metal other than lead, or a thin sheet of lead foil. The magic user employing the spell is able to probe the surface thoughts of 1 creature per turn, getting simple instinctual thoughts from a lower order creature. Probes can continue on the same creature from round to round. The caster can use the spell to help determine if some creature lurks behind a door, for example, but ESP will not always reveal what sort of creature it is. The material component of this spell is a copper piece. Fool's Gold. Alteration. Copper coins can temporarily be changed to gold pieces, or brass items turned to solid gold, for the spell duration by means of this duomer. Note that a huge amount of copper or brass can be turned to gold by the spell. Assume 4,000 gold pieces are equal to a cubic foot for purposes of this spell. Any creature viewing Fool's Gold is entitled to a saving throw which must be equal to or less than its intelligence score, but for every level of the magic user, the creature must add 1 to its hit dice score, so it becomes unlikely that Fool's Gold will be detectable if it was created by a high-level caster. If the gold is struck hard by an object of cold wrought iron, there is a slight chance it will revert to its natural state. depending on the material component used to create the gold. If a 50 gold piece citrine is powdered and sprinkled over the metal to be changed, the chance that cold iron will return it to its true nature is 30%. If a 100 gold piece amber stone is powdered, there is a 25% chance the iron will dispel the dwemer. If a 500 gold piece topaz is powdered, the chance drops to 10%. And if a 1,000 gold piece oriental corundum topaz is powdered, there is only a 1% chance that the cold iron will reveal that it is fool's gold. Welcome back, Skull Cowboy. Forget, enchantment, charm. By means of this dwemer, the spellcaster causes creatures within the area of effect to forget the events of the previous round, 1 minute of time previous to the utterance of the spell. For every 3 levels of experience of the spellcaster, another minute of time is forgotten. Naturally, forget in no way negates any charm, suggestions, geases, quests, or similar spells, but it is possible that the creature who caused such magic to be placed on the victim of a forget spell could be forgotten by this means. From 1 to 4 individual creatures can be affected by the spell at the discretion of the caster. If only 1 is to be affected, the recipient saves versus magic at -2 on the dice. If 2 are spell objects, the save at -1, and if 3 or 4 are to be made to forget by this dwemer, they save normally. A clerical heal or restoration spell cast for this purpose will restore the lost memories, as will a wish by other means will not serve to do so. Invisibility, illusion, phantasm. This spell causes the recipient to vanish from sight and not be detectable by normal vision or even infravision. Of course, the invisible creature is not magically silenced with respect to noises normally to it. The spell remains in effect until it is magically broken or dispelled, or the magic user or the other recipient cancels it, or until he, she, or it attacks any creature. Thus, the spellcaster or recipient could open doors, talk, eat, climb stairs, etc., but if any form of attack is made, the invisible creature immediately becomes visible, although this will allow the first attack by the creature because of the former invisibility. Even the allies of the spell recipient cannot see the invisible creature, or his, her, or its gear, unless the allies can normally see invisible things or employ magic to do so. Note that all highly intelligent creatures within 10 or more hit dice of levels of the experience, or the equivalent in intelligence dice levels, have a chance to automatically detect invisible objects. The material component of the invisibility spell are an eyelash and a bit of gum arabic, the former encased in the latter. Knock, alteration. The knock spell will open stuck or held or wizard locked doors. It will also open barred or otherwise locked doors. It causes secret doors to open. The knock spell will also open locked or trick opening boxes or chests. It will loose shackles or chains as well. If it is used to open a wizard locked door, the knock does not remove the former spell, but it simply suspends its functioning for 1 turn. In all other cases, the knock will permanently open locks or welds, although the former could be closed and locked again thereafter. It will not raise bars or similar impediments, such as a portcullis. The spell will perform 2 functions, but if a door is locked, barred, and held, opening it will require 2 knock spells. Leomund's Trap, illusion, phantasm. This false trap is designed to fool the dwarf and or thief attempting to pilfer or otherwise steal the spellcaster's goods. It enables the magic user to place a dwemer upon any small mechanism or device such as a lock, hinge, hasp, screw-on cap, ratchet, etc. Any examination by a character able to detect traps will be 80% likely to note the Leomund's Trap and believe it to be real. This probability reduces by 4% for each level of experience of the examiner beyond the first. If a supposed trap is then to be removed, it is only 20% likely that the creature attempting it will believe he or she has succeeded, for plus 4% probability per level of experience of the remover. Of course, the spell is illusory. Nothing will happen if the trap is ignored, and its primary purpose is to frighten away thieves or make them waste precious time. The material component of the spell is a piece of iron pyrite touched to the object to be trapped. Only 1 Leomund's Trap may be placed within a 50-foot by 50-foot area. Levitate, alteration. When a levitate spell is cast, the magic user can place it upon his or her person or upon some other creature, subject to a maximum weight limit of 1,000 gold pieces, equivalents per level of experience, i.e., a third level magic user can levitate up to 300 pounds, 3,000 gold pieces, maximum. If the spell is cast upon the person of the magic user, he or she can move vertically at a rate of 20 feet per round. If cast upon another creature, the magic user can levitate it at a maximum vertical movement of 10 feet per round. Horizontal movement is not empowered by this spell, but the recipient could push along the face of a cliff, for example, to move laterally. The spell caster can cancel the spell as desired if the recipient of the spell is unwilling. That creature is entitled to a saving throw to determine if the levitate spell affects it. The material component of the spell is either a small leather loop or a piece of golden wire bent into a cup shape with a long shank on one end. Locate Object. Divination, reversible. This spell is the same as a third level cleric Locate Object, except that its range differs. Magic Mouth. Alteration. When this spell is cast, the magic user employs the chosen object with an enchanted mouth which suddenly appears and speaks the message which the spellcaster imparted upon the occurrence of a specified event. The magic mouth can speak any message of 25 words or less in a language known by the spellcaster over a one-turn period from start to finish. It cannot speak magical spells. The mouth moves to the words articulated So if it is placed upon a statue, for example, the mouth of the statue would actually move and appear to speak. Of course, the magic mouth can be placed upon a tree, rock, door, or any other object, excluding intelligent members of the animal or vegetable kingdoms. The spell will function upon specific occurrence according to the command of the spellcaster, i.e., speak to the first creature that touches you, or to the first creature that passes within 30 feet. Command can be as general or specified as detailed as desired, such as the following. Speak only when an octogenarian female human carrying a sack of groat clusters sits cross-legged within 1 foot. Very specific there. Command range is 1/2 per level of the magic user, so a 6th level magic user can command the magic mouth to speak at a maximum encounter range of 3 inches, i.e., speak with a winged creature comes within 3 feet. Until the speak command can be fulfilled, the magic mouth will remain in effect. Thus, spell duration is variable. A magic mouth cannot distinguish its invisible creatures, alignments, levels, or hit dice, nor class, except by external garb. The material component of the spell is a small bit of honeycomb. That's a weird spell. Mirror Image. Illusion, Phantasm. And we got another illustration. Oop, that's the wrong one, sorry. When a mirror image spell is invoked, the spellcaster causes from 1 to 4 exact duplicates of himself or herself to come into being around his or her person. These images do exactly what the magic user does, and as the spell causes a blurring and slight distortion when it is affected, it is impossible for opponents to be certain which are the phantoms and which is the actual magic user. When an image is struck by a weapon, magical or otherwise, it disappears, but any other existing images remain intact until struck. The images seem to shift from round to round, so that if the actual magic user is struck during one round, he or she cannot be picked out from amongst his or her images the next. To determine the number of images which appear, roll a percentile dice and add 1 to the resulting score for each level of experience of the magic user. 25 or less equals 1 mirror image. 26 to 50 equals 2, 51 to 75 equals 3, and 75 or more equals 4. At the expiration of the spell duration, all images wink out. Pyrotechnics, alteration. With the exception of the differences noted above, this spell is the same as the 3rd level Druid spell Pyrotechnics. Ray of Enfeeblement, enchantment charm. By means of a Ray of Enfeeblement, a magic user weakens an opponent, reducing strength and attacks which rely upon it by 25% or more. For every level of experience beyond the 3rd of the magic user casting the spell, there is an additional 2% strength reduction, so that at 4th level, strength loss is 27%. Range and duration of the spell are also dependent upon the level of experience of the spellcaster. For example, if a creature is struck by a ray of enfeeblement, it will lose the appropriate percentage of hit points of damage it scored on physical attacks, missiles, thrusting, cutting, crushing weapons, biting, clawing, goring, kicking, constriction, etc. Your referee will determine any other reductions appropriate to the affected creature if the target creature makes its saving throw. The spell has no effect. Rope Trick. Alteration. When this spell is cast upon a piece of rope from 5 feet to 30 feet in length, one end of the rope rises into the air until the whole is hanging perpendicular, as if affixed at the upper end. The upper end is, in fact, fastened in an extra-dimensional space, and the spellcaster and up to 5 others can climb up the rope and disappear into the place for safety where no creature can find them. The rope cannot be taken into the extra-dimensional space if 6 persons have climbed it, but otherwise it can be pulled up. Otherwise, the rope simply hangs in air and will stay there unless removed by some creature. The persons in the extra-dimensional space must climb down the rope prior to the expiration of the spell duration, or else they are dropped from the height to which they originally climbed when the effect of the spell wears out. The rope can be climbed by only one person at a time. Note that the rope trick spell allows climbers to reach a normal place if they do not climb all the way up the rope's upper end, which is in an extra-dimensional space. The material components of the spell are powdered corn extract and a twisted loop of parchment. I never knew that you could actually use that to go into an extra-dimensional space. Like, I've never cast this spell, but that's completely new to me. You're right, Skull Cowboy. That is completely useful. I think that's a great spell. Scare, enchantment, charm. When this spell is directed at any creature with fewer than 6 levels of experience or hit dice, it must save versus magic or fall into a fit of trembling and shaking. The frightened creature will not drop any items held unless it is encumbered. If cornered, the spell recipient will fight, but at a -1 on 2 hit and damage dice rolls and all saving throws as well. Note that this spell does not have any effect on elves, half-elves, the undead, skeletons, zombies, ghouls, shadows, ghasts, wights, wraiths, larvae, lemures, manes, or clerics of any sort. The material component used for this spell is a bit of bone from an undead skeleton, zombie, ghoul, ghast, or mummy. Shatter. Alteration. The Shatter spell affects non-magical objects of crystal, glass, ceramic, or porcelain, such as vials, bottles, flasks, jugs, windows, mirrors, etc. Such objects are shivered into dozens of pieces by the spell. Objects above 100 gold pieces weight equivalents per level of the spellcaster are not affected, but all other objects of the appropriate composition must save versus a crushing blow or be shattered. The material component of the spell is a chip of mica. Stinking Cloud. Evocation. When a stinking cloud is cast, the magic user causes a billowing mass of nauseous vapors to come into being up to 3 inches distant from his or her position. Any creature caught within the cloud must save versus poison or be helpless due to nausea from 2 to 5 rounds, d4 plus 1. Those which make a successful saving throw are helpless only for as long as they remain within the cloud, and for the round after they emerge, because of its irritating effects on visual and olfactory organs. The material components of the spell is a rotten egg or several skunk cabbage leaves. Strength. Alteration. Application of this spell increases the strength of the character by a number of points, or tenths of points, after 18 strength is attained, and the character is in the fighter class. Benefits of the strength spell last for the duration of the magic. The amount of additional strength accrued to a character upon whom this spell is cast depends on his or her class, and is subject to all restrictions on strength due to race, sex, or class. If a fighter, paladin or ranger as well, has an 18 strength already, from 10% to 80% is added to his extraordinary strength roll. All strength additional scores above 18 are likewise treated as 1, equaling an extra 10% on the extraordinary strength rating. The material component of this spell is a few hairs or a pinch of dung from a particularly strong animal. Ape, bear, ox, etc. Huh. Okay. You got to use hairy poop to cast strength spell. So gross. Web. Evocation. This is so gross. Why would anyone be carrying around a bag of poo just to make someone stronger? So strange. Yeah, you cannot reverse the strength spell. Web evocation. A web spell creates a many-layered mass of strong, sticky strands similar to spider webs, but far larger and tougher. These masses must be anchored to 2 or more points, floor and ceiling, opposite walls, etc., diametrically opposed. The web spell covers a maximum area of 8 cubic inches, and the webs must be at least 1 inch thick, so a mass 4 inch high, 2 inch wide, and 1 inch deep may be cast. Creatures caught within webs or simply touching them become stuck against the gluey fibers. Creatures with less than 13 strength must remain fast until freed by another or until the spell wears off. For every full turn entrapped by a web, a creature has a 5% cumulative chance of suffocating to death. I did not know about that aspect of it. Creatures with strength between 13 and 17 can break through 1 inch of webs per turn. Creatures with 18 or greater strength break through 1 foot of webs per round. NB sufficient mass equates to great strength in this case, and great mass will hardly notice webs. Strong and huge creatures will break through 1 foot of webs per segment. It is important to note that the strands of a web spell are flammable. A magic flaming sword will slash them away as easily as a hand brushes away cobwebs. Any fire, torch, flaming oil, flaming sword, etc., will set them alight and burn them away in a single round. All creatures within the webs will take 2 to 8 hit points of damage from the flames, but those freed from the strands will not be harmed. Saving throw is made at -2. If the saving throw versus web is made, 2 results may have occurred. If the creature has room to escape, then he or she is assumed to have jumped free. If there's no room to escape, then the webs are only 1/2 strength. The material component of the spell is a bit of spiderweb. Wizard Lock Alteration. When a Wizard Lock spell is cast upon a door, chest, portal, it magically locks it. The wizard locked door or object can be opened only by breaking a dispel magic, a knock spell, or by a magic user 4 or more levels higher than the one casting the spell. Note that the last 2 methods do not remove the wizard lock, they only negate it for a brief duration. Creatures of extra-dimensional nature do not affect a wizard lock as they do a held portal. See hold portal. And that is the end of 2nd level spells. Okay. Interesting. Some interesting spells we're running across. Anyone have any opinions on what your favorite is so far? Let me get a drink of water before we dive in again. 3rd level spells. Blink Alteration. By means of this spell, the magic user causes his or her material form to blink out and back into this plane once again in random period and direction during the duration of each minute the spell is in effect. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual Blink Dog. For example, the segment of the round that the spellcaster blinks out is determined by random roll from 2d4, and during this same segment, he or she will appear again 2 feet distance from his or her previous position. Direction is determined by rolling d8. 1 is right ahead, 2 is right, 3 is right behind, 4 is behind, 5 is left behind, 6 is left, 7 is left ahead, and 8 is ahead. If some object is already occupying the space which the spellcaster has indicated as blinking into, his or her form is displaced in a direction away from original round starting position for any distance necessary to appear in empty space, but never in excess of an additional 10 feet. If that extra distance still dictates the magic user and another solid object are to occupy the same space, the spellcaster is then trapped in the ethereal plane. Whoa! During and after the blink segment of a round, the spellcaster can be attacked only by opponents able to strike both locations at once. Example, a breath weapon, fireball, or similar wide area attack form. Those not able to do so can only strike the magic user if they're managed to attack prior to the blink segment. The spellcaster is only 75% likely to be able to perform any attacks other than physical attacks with a handheld stabbing or striking weapon during the course of this spell. That is, use of any spell, device, or item weight not be accomplished or accomplished in an incorrect manner or in the wrong direction. Your referee will determine success or failure and the results thereof according to the particular action being performed. Clairaudience. Divination. The clairaudience spell enables the magic user to concentrate upon some location and hear in his or her mind whatever noises within a 6-inch radius of his or her determined clairaudience locale center. Distance is not a factor, but the locale must be known, i.e., a place familiar to the spellcaster or an obvious one, such as behind a door, around a corner, in a copse of woods, etc. Only sound which are normally detectable by the magic user can be heard by use of this spell. Only metal sheeting or magical protections will prevent the operation of the spell. Note that it will function only on the plane of existence on which the magic user is at the time of casting. The material component of the spell is a small silver horn of at least 100 gold piece value, and casting the spell causes it to disappear. Clairvoyance. Divination. Similar to the clairaudience spell, the clairvoyance spell empowers the magic user to see in his or her mind whatever is within sight range of the spell locale chosen. Distance is not a factor, but the locale must be known, familiar, or obvious. Furthermore, light is a factor, whether or not the spellcaster has the ability to see into the infrared or ultraviolet spectrums. If the area is dark, only a 1-inch radius of the center of the locale of the spell's area of effect can be clairvoyed. Otherwise, the seeing extends to normal vision range. Metal sheeting or magical protections will foil a clairvoyance spell. The spell functions only on the plane on which the magic user is at the time of casting. The material component of the spell is a pinch of powdered pineal gland from a human or humanoid creature. Detect magic. Abjuration. Except as noted above, this spell is the same as the 3rd level cleric spell, Dispel Magic. Oh, that was Dispel Magic, not Detect, sorry. Explosive Runes. By tracing the mystical runes upon a book, map, scroll, or similar instrument bearing written information, the magic user prevents unauthorized reading of such. The explosive runes are difficult to detect, 5% per level of magic user experience of the reader, thieves having a 5% chance in any event. When read, the explosive runes detonate, delivering a full 12 to 30, 64 plus 6, hit points of damage upon the reader, who gets no saving throw, and either a like amount or half that if the saving throws are made, on creatures within the blast radius. The magic user who casts the spell, as well as any other magic users he or she instructs, can use the instrument without triggering the runes. Likewise, the magic user can totally remove them whenever desired. They can otherwise be removed only by a Dispel Magic spell, and the explosive runes last until the spell is triggered. The instrument upon which the runes are placed will be destroyed when the explosion takes place, unless it is normally subject to destruction by magical fire. Feign Death. Necromantic. By means of this spell, the caster or any other creature whose levels of experience hit dice do not exceed the magic user's own level can be put into a cataleptic state, which is impossible to distinguish from actual death. Although the person-creature affected by the Feign Death spell can smell, hear, and know what is going on, no feeling or sight of any sort is possible. Thus, any wounding or mistreatment of the body will not be felt, and no reaction will occur, and damage will be only 1/2 normal. In addition, paralysis, poison, or energy level drain will not affect the individual creature under the influence of this spell, but poison injection or otherwise introduced into the body will become effective when the spell recipient is no longer under the influence of this spell, although a saving throw is permitted. Note that only a willing individual can be affected by Feign Death. The spellcaster is able to end the spell effects at any time desired, but it requires a 1 full round for bodily functions to begin again. Alright, this is probably everyone's favorite. Fireball. Evocation. A fireball is an explosive burst of flame which detonates with a low roar and delivers damage proportionate to the level of the magic user who cast it, i.e., 1 6-sided die d6 for each level of experience of the spellcaster. Exception: Magic Fireball Wand delivers 6 die fireballs, 66. Magic staves with this capability deliver 8-die fireballs, and scroll spells of this type deliver a fireball from 5 to 10 dice, d6 plus 4, of damage. The burst of the fireball does not extend a considerable amount of pressure, and the burst will generally conform to the shape of the area in which it occurs, thus covering an area equal to its normal spherical volume. The area which is covered by the fireball is a total volume of roughly 33,000 cubic feet or yards. Besides causing damage to creatures, the fireball ignites all combustible materials within its burst radius, and the heat of the fireball will melt soft materials such as gold, copper, silver, etc. Items exposed to the spell's effects must be rolled for to determine they are affected. Items with a creature which makes its saving throw are considered as unaffected. The magic user points his or her finger and speaks the range, distance, and height at which the fireball is to burst. The streak flashes from the pointing digit, and unless it impacts upon a material body prior to attaining the prescribed range, flowers into a fireball. If creatures fail their saving throws, they all take full hit point damage from the blast. Those who make their saving throws manage to dodge, fall flat, or roll aside, taking 1/2 the full hit point damage, each and every one within the blast area. The material component of this spell is a tiny ball composed of bat guano and sulfur. Lots of poop casters have to carry. Lots of poop. Kind of gross. Flame Arrow. Conjuration, Summoning. Once the magic user has cast this spell, he or she is able to touch one arrow or crossbow bolt, quarrel, per segment for the duration of the flame arrow. Each such missile so touched becomes magic, although it gains no bonuses to hit. Each such missile must be discharged within 1 round, for after the period, flame consumes it entirely and the magic is lost. Fiery missiles will certainly have normal probabilities of causing combustion, and any creature subject to additional fire damage will suffer plus 1 hit point of damage from any flame arrow which hits it. The material component for the spell are a drop of oil and a small piece of flint. The price of magic. The gold is in the poop. Fly, Alteration. This spell enables the magic user to bestow the power of magical flight. The creature affected is able to move vertically and or horizontally at a rate of 12 inches per move, half that if ascending, twice that if descending in a dive. The exact duration of the spell is always unknown to the spellcaster, as the 1 to 6 turns variable addition is determined by the dungeon master secretly. The material component of the fly spell is a wing feather of any bird. Gust of Wind, Alteration. When the spell is cast, a strong puff of air originates from the magic user and moves in the direction he or she is facing. The force of this gust of wind is sufficient to extinguish candles, torches, and similar unprotected flames. It will cause protected flames, such as those from lanterns, to wildly dance and have a 5% chance per level of experience of the spellcaster to extinguish such lights. It will also fan large fires outward 1 foot to 6 feet in the direction of the wind's movement. It will force back small flying creatures 1 inch to 6 inch and cause man-sized ones to be held motionless if attempting to move into its force, and similarly slow large flying creatures by 50% for 1 round. It will blow over light objects. Its path is 1 inch wide by 1 inch of the length per level of experience of the magic user casting the Gust of Wind spell, i.e. a 8th level magic user casts a gust of wind which travels 8 inches. The material component of the spell is a legume seed. Haste, Alteration. When this spell is cast, affected creatures function at double their normal movement and attack rates. Thus, a creature moving at 6 inches and attacking 1 time per round would move at 12 inches and attack 2 times per round. Spell casting is not more rapid. The number of creatures which can be affected is equal to the level of experience of the magic user, those creatures closest to the spellcaster being affected in preference to those further away, and all affected by haste must be in the designated area of effect. Note that this spell negates the effects of a slow spell, see hereafter. Additionally, the spell ages the recipients due to speeded metabolic processes. Its material component is a shaving of licorice root. It ages the recipient. Wow. Okay. So what? By seconds? By the duration? I don't know. That doesn't explain it. Hold person. Enchantment charm. If you just want a 5 o'clock shadow really quick, just cast haste on yourself. Similar to the second level cleric hold person, this spell immobilizes creatures within range, as designated by the magic user. If 3 or 4 persons are attacked, their saving throws are normal. But if 2 are attacked, their saving throws are made at -1, and if only 1 creature is attacked, the saving throw versus the hold person spell is made at -3 on the die. Partial negation of a hold person spell, such as would be possible by a ring of spell turning, causes a spell to function as a slow spell, unless the saving throw is successful. Creatures affected by the spell are brownies, dryads, dwarves, elves, gnolls, gnomes, goblins, half-elves, halflings, half-orcs, hobgoblins, humans, kobolds, lizardmen, nixies, orcs, pixies, sprites, and troglodytes. Awfully specific. Infravision. This is alteration. By means of this spell, the magic user enables the recipient of infravision to see light in the infrared spectrum. Thus, differences in heat wave radiations can be seen up to 6 inches. Note that strong sources of infrared radiation, fire, lanterns, torches, etc., tend to blind or cast shadows, just as such light does with respect to normal vision. So the infravision is affected and does not function efficiently in the presence of such heat sources. Invisible creatures are not usually detectable by infravision, as the infrared light waves are affected by invisibility, just as those of ultraviolet and normal spectrums are. The material component of the spell is a pinch of dried carrot or an agate. Invisibility, 10-foot radius, illusion, phantasm. This spell is essentially the same as invisibility. Those affected by it cannot see each other. Those affected creatures which attack negate their invisibility only with respect to themselves, not others made invisible, unless the spell recipient causes the spell to be broken. Leomund's Tiny Hut. Alteration. When this spell is cast, the magic user causes an opaque sphere of force to come into being around his or her person. Half of the sphere protecting above the ground or floor surface, the lower hemisphere passing through the surface. This field causes the interior of the sphere to maintain at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, temperature in cold, to 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and heat up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit, cold below 0 degrees, lowers inside temperature to a 1 degree for 1 degree basis. Heat above 105 degrees raises the inside temperature likewise. The tiny hut will withstand winds up to 50 miles per hour without being harmed, but wind force greater than that will destroy it. The interior of the tiny hut is a hemisphere, and the spell caster can illuminate it dimly upon command or extinguish the light as desired. Note that although the force field is opaque from positions outside, it is transparent from within. It in no way will Leomund's tiny hut provide protection from missiles, weapons, spells, and the like. Up to 6 other man-sized creatures can fit in the field with its creator, and these others can freely pass in and out of the tiny hut without harming it. But if the spellcaster removes himself from it, the spell will dissipate. The material component for the spell is a small crystal bead, which will shatter when the spell duration expires or the hut is otherwise dispelled. Here's another favorite of all players. Lightning Bolt. Evocation. Upon casting this spell, the magic user releases a powerful stroke of electrical energy, which causes damage equal to 1 6-sided die d6 for each level of experience of the caster to creatures within its area of effect, or 50% of such damage to such creatures which successfully save versus the attack form. The range of the bolt is the location of the commencement of the stroke, i.e., if shot to 6 inches, the bolt would extend from this point to n inches further distance. The lightning bolt would set fire to combustibles, sunder wooden doors, splinter up to 1 inch thick of stone, and melt metals with a low melting point, lead, gold, copper, silver, bronze. Saving throws must be made for objects which withstand the full force of a stroke, cf. Fireball. The area of a lightning bolt's effect is determined by the spellcaster, just as is its distance. The stroke can be either a forking bolt, 1 inch wide and 4 inches long, or a single bolt, 1/2 inch wide and 8 inches long. If a 12th level magic user casts a spell at its maximum range, 16 inches in this case, the stroke would begin at 16 inches and flash outward from there, as a forked bolt extending at 20 inches or a single one extending at 24 inches. If the full length of the stroke is not possible due to the interposition of a non-conducting barrier, such as a stone wall, the lightning bolt will double and rebound towards its caster. Gah! Its length will be the normal total from beginning to end of stroke, damage caused to interposing barriers notwithstanding. Example, an 8-inch stroke is begun at a range of 4 inches, but the possible space of the desired direction is only 3.5 inches. So the bolt begins at the 3.5 inch maximum, and it rebounds 8 inches in the direction of its creator. The material component of the spell are a bit of fur and an amber, crystal, or glass rod. Monster Summoning 1. Conjuration Summoning. Within 1 to 4 rounds of casting this spell, the magic user will cause the appearance from 2 to 8 first-level monsters selected at random by the referee, but whose number may be either randomly determined or selected personally by the referee, according to the strength of the monster randomly determined. These monsters will appear in the spot within spell range desired by the magic user, and they will attack the spell user's opponents to the best of their ability until he or she commands the attack cease, where the spell duration expires or the monsters are slain. Note that if no opponent exists to fight, summoned monsters can, if communication is possible, and if they are physically capable, perform other services for the summoned magic user. The material component of this spell are a tiny bag and a small, not necessarily lit, candle. Phantasmal Force. Illusion Phantasm. When this spell is cast, the magic user creates a visual illusion which will affect all believing creatures which view the phantasmal force, even to the extent of suffering damage from phantasmal missiles or from falling into an illusory pit full of sharp spikes. Note that actual illusion is not a component of the spell. The illusion lasts until struck by an opponent, unless the spellcaster causes the illusion to react appropriately, or until the magic user ceases concentration upon the spell due to desire, moving, or successful attack which causes damage. Creatures which disbelieve the phantasmal force gain a saving throw versus the spell, and if they succeed, they see it for what it is and add +4 to associates' saving throws, for this knowledge can be communicated effectively. Creatures not observing the spell effect are immune until they view it. The spell can create the illusion of any object or creature or force as long as it's within the boundaries of the spell's area of effect. This area can move within limits of the range. The material component of the spell is a bit of fleece. Protection from evil, 10-foot radius, abjuration, reversible. This spell is the same as the first level protection from evil spell, except with respect to its area of effect. See also the first level cleric protection of evil spell for general information. Protection from normal missiles, abjuration. By means of this spell, the magic user bestows total invulnerability to hurled and projected missiles such as arrows, axes, bolts, javelins, small stones, and spears. Furthermore, it causes a reduction of 1 from each die of damage inflicted by large and or magical missiles such as ballista missiles, catapult stones, and magical arrows, bolts, javelins, etc. Note, however, that this spell does not convey any protection from such magical attacks as fireballs, lightning bolts, or magic missiles. The material component of the spell is a piece of tortoise or turtle shell. Slow. Alteration. A slow spell causes affected creatures to move and attack at 1/2 the normal or current rate. Thus, it negates a haste spell. Has cumulative effect if cast upon creatures already slowed, and otherwise affects magically speeded or slowed creatures. The magic will affect as many creatures as the spellcaster has levels of experience, provided these creatures are within the area of effect determined by the magic user, i.e. the 4-inch by 4-inch area which centers in the direction and at the range called for by the caster. The material component of this spell is a drop of treacle. Suggestion, enchantment, charm. When this spell is cast by the magic user, he or she influences the actions of the chosen recipient by utterance of a few words, phrases, or a sentence or two. suggesting a course of action desirable to the spellcaster. The creatures to be influenced must, of course, be able to understand the magic user's suggestion, i.e., it must be spoken in a language that the spell recipient understands. The suggestion must be worded in such a manner as to make the action sound reasonable. A request asking the creature to stab itself, throw itself onto a spear, immolate itself, or do some other obviously harmful act will automatically negate the effects of the spell. However, a suggestion that a pool of acid was actually pure water and a quick dip would be refreshing is another matter. Or the urging that a cessation of attack upon the magic user's party would benefit a red dragon, for the group could loot a rich treasure elsewhere through a cooperative action, is likewise a reasonable use of the spell's power. The course of action of a suggestion can continue in effect for a considerable duration, such as is the case of the red dragon mentioned above. If the recipient creature makes its saving throw, the spell has no effect. Note that a very reasonable suggestion will cause the saving throw to be made at a penalty, such as a -2, -1, etc., at the discretion of your dungeon master. Undead are not subject to suggestion. The material component of this spell are a snake's tongue and either a bit of honeycomb or a drop of sweet oil. Tongues. Alteration. Reversible. Except as noted above, this spell is the same as the 4th level cleric spell, Tongues. Also, the material component is a small clay model of a ziggurat, which shatters when the spell is pronounced. Thanks for joining in, Skull Cowboy. Have a good night. Water breathing, alteration reversible. Except as noted above, and that the material component of the spell is a short reed or a piece of straw, this is the same as the 3rd level druid spell, water breathing. And that is all of the 3rd level magic user spells. 4th level spells. Charm Monster, Enchantment, Charm. This spell is similar to a Charm Person spell, but it will affect any living creature, or several creatures of lesser level as explained hereafter. The magic user casts the Charm Monster spell, and any affected creature regards the spellcaster as friendly, an ally or companion to be treated well, or guarded from harm. If communication is possible, the charmed creature will follow reasonable requests, instructions, or orders most faithfully, as a suggestion spell. Affected creatures will eventually come out from under the influence of the spell, and the probability of such breaking of a charm monster spell is a function of the creature's level, i.e. its number of hit dice. And I'll show you the little chart they have here. Naturally, overtly hostile acts by the person charming the monster will automatically break the spell, or at the very least, allow the monster a new saving throw versus the charm. The spell will affect from 2 to 8 first-level creatures, 1 to 4 second-level creatures, 1 or 2 third-level, or 1 creature of 4th level or higher. Confusion, Enchantment, Charm. Except as noted above, this spell is identical to the 7th level Druid spell Confusion. However, it affects a basic 2 to 16 creatures. Its material component is a set of 3 nut shells. Dig, Evocation. A dig spell enables the caster to evacuate 125 cubic feet of earth, sand, or mud per round. The hole thus dug is a cube 5 feet per side. The material thrown from the evacuation scatters evenly around the pit. If the magic user continues downward beyond 5 feet, there's a chance that the pit will collapse. 15% additional 5 foot in depth in earth, 35% per additional 5 foot depth in sand, and 55% additional 5 foot depth in mud. Any creature at the edge, 1 foot of such a pit, uses a dexterity score as a saving throw to avoid falling into the hole, with a score equal to or less than the dexterity, meaning that a fall was avoided. Any creature moving rapidly towards a pit area will fall in unless it saves versus magic. Any creature caught in the center of a pit, just dug, will always fall in. The spellcaster uses a miniature shovel and a tiny bucket to activate a dig spell, and must continue to hold these material components while each pit is excavated. That's funny. He's got like a little... I'm imagining, you know those mini shovels that like a sand castle's made from? And like a little bucket? I'm totally imagining those. Little plastic ones. Dimension Door. Alteration. By means of a Dimension Door spell, the magic user instantly transfers himself or herself up to 3 inches distance per level of experience of the spellcaster. This special form of teleportation allows for no error, and the magic user always arrives at exactly the spot desired, whether by simply visualizing the area within the spell transfer distance, of course, or by stating directions such as 30 inches straight downward or upwards to the northwest 45-degree angle, 42 inches. If a magic user arrives in a place which is already occupied by a solid body, he or she remains in the astral plane until located by some helpful creature willing to cast a dispel magic on the person, for he or she is stunned and cannot successfully perform any spell casting. If distances are stated and the spellcaster arrives with no support below his or her feet, i.e. in mid-air, falling and damage will result unless further magical means are employed. All that the magic user wears or carries, subject to a maximum weight equal to 5,000 gold pieces of non-living matter, or half that amount of living matter, is transferred with the spellcaster. Recovery from use of a Dimension Door spell requires 7 segments. Enchanted Weapon, alteration, reversible. This spell turns an ordinary weapon into a magical one. The weapon is the equivalent of a +1 weapon, but has no bonuses whatsoever. Thus, arrows, axes, bolts, bows, daggers, hammers, maces, spears, swords, etc. can be made into enchanted weapons. 2 small, arrows, bolts, daggers, etc., or 1 large, axe, bow, hammer, mace, etc., weapon can be affected by the spell. Note that successful hits by enchanted missile weapons cause the spell to be broken, but that otherwise the spell duration lasts until the time limit based on the level of experience of the magic user casting it expires, i.e. 40 rounds, or 4 turns, in the case of an 8th level magic user. The material components of the spell are powdered lime and carbon. Extension 1, alteration. By use of an Extension 1 spell, the magic user prolongs the duration of a previously cast 1st, 2nd, or 3rd level spell by 50%. Thus, a Levitate spell can be made to function 1 1/2 turns per level. A Hold Person spell may made to work for 3 rounds per level, etc. Naturally, the spell has effect only on such spells where duration is meaningful. Fear, illusion, phantasm. When a fear spell is cast, the magic user sends forth an invisible ray, which causes creatures within its area of effect to turn away from the spellcaster and flee in panic. Affected creatures are likely to drop whatever they're holding when struck by the spell. The base chance of this is 60% at 1st level, or at 1 hit die, and each level, or hit die above this, reduces the probability by 5%, i.e. at 10th level there is only a 15% chance, and at 13th level, 0% chance. Creatures affected by fear flee at their fastest rate for the number of melee rounds equal to the level of experience of the spellcaster. The panic takes effect on the melee round following the spellcasting, but dropping of items in hand will take place immediately. Of course, creatures will make their saving throws versus the spell are not affected. The material component of the spell is either the heart of a hen or a white feather. Fire Charm, enchantment, charm. By means of this spell, the magic user causes a normal fire source such as a brazier, flambeau, or bonfire to serve as a magical agent. For from this source he or she causes a gossamer veil of multi-hued flame to circle the fire at 5-foot distance. Any creature observing the fire or the dancing circle of flame around it must save versus magic or be charmed into remaining motionless and gazing transfixed at the flames. While so charmed, creatures are subject to suggestion spells of 12 or fewer words, saving against the influence at -3. The fire charm is broken by any physical attack upon the charmed creature. If a solid object is interposed between the creature and the veil of flames so as to obstruct vision, or when the duration of the spell is at an end, note that the veil of flame is not a magical fire, and passing through it incurs the same type and amount of damage as would be sustained from passing through its original fire source. The material component for this spell is a small piece of multicolored silk of exceptional thinness, which the Dwemer crafter must throw into the fire source. Whew. Starting to get tongue-tied. Fire Shield, Evocation Alteration. By casting this spell, the magic user appears to immolate himself or herself, but the flames are thin and wispy, shedding light equal only to half that of a normal torch, 15-foot radius of dim light, and colored blue or green if variation A is cast, violet or blue if variation B is employed. Any creature striking the spellcaster with body or handheld weapons will inflict normal damage upon the spellcaster, but the attacker will take double the amount of damage so inflicted. The other spell powers depend on the variation of the spell used. A. The flames are hot, and any cold-based attacks will be saved against at +2 on the dice, and either half normal damage or no damage will be sustained. Fire-based attacks are normal, but if the magic user fails to make the required saving throw, if any, against them, he or she will sustain double normal damage. The material component for this variation is a bit of phosphorus. And B. The flames are cold, and any fire-based attack will be saved against at +2 on the dice, and either half normal damage or no damage will be sustained. Cold damage attacks are normal, but if the magic user fails to make the required saving throw, if any, against them, he or she will sustain double normal damage. The material component for this variation is a live firefly or glowworm, or the tail portions of 4 dead ones. Fire Trap, Evocation. Any closable item, book, box, bottle, chest, coffer, coffin, door, drawer, and so forth, is affected by a fire trap spell, but the item so trapped cannot have a second spell, such as a hold portal or wizard's lock, placed upon it, except as follows. If a fire trap / hold portal spell is attempted, only the spell first cast will work, and the other will be negated. Both negated if cast simultaneously. If a fire trap is cast after a wizard lock, the former is negated. If both are cast simultaneously, both are negated. And if a wizard lock is cast after the placement of a fire trap, there is a 50% chance that both spells will be negated. A knock spell will not affect a fire trap in any way. As soon as the offending party enters or touches, the trap will be discharged. The caster can use the trapped object without discharging it. When the trap is discharged, there will be an explosion of 5 feet radius, and all creatures within the area must make saving throw versus magic. Damage is 1 to 4 hit points plus 1 hit point per level of the magic user who cast the spell, or 1/2 the total amount for creatures successfully saving versus magic. The item trapped is not harmed by this explosion. There's only 50% of the normal chance to detect a fire trap, and failure to remove it when such action is attempted detonates it immediately. To place this spell, the caster must trace the outline of the closure with a bit of sulfur or saltpeter. Fumble, Enchantment, Charm. When a fumble spell is cast, the magic user causes the recipient of the magic to suddenly become clumsy and awkward. Running creatures will trip and fall. Those reaching for an item will fumble and drop it. Those employing weapons will likewise awkwardly drop them. Recovery from a fall or a fumbled object will typically require the whole of the next melee round. Note that the breakable items might suffer damage when dropped. If the victim makes his or her saving throw, the fumble will simply make him or her effectively operate at 1/2 normal efficiency, like a slow spell. The material component of this spell is a dab of solidified milk fat. Hallucinatory Terrain, Illusion, Phantasm. By means of this spell, the magic user causes an illusion which hides the actual terrain within the area of the spell's effect. Thus, open fields or a road can be made to look as if a swamp or hill or a crevice or some other difficult or impassable terrain existed there. Also, a pond can be made to appear as a grassy meadow, a precipice look as if it were a gentle slope, or a rock-strewn gully made to look as if it were a wide and smooth road. The hallucinatory terrain persists until a dispel magic spell is cast upon the area, or until it is contacted by an intelligent creature. Each level of experience of the magic user enables him or her to affect a larger area. At 10th level, a magic user can affect an area up to 10 inches by 10 inches square, while at 12th level, the spellcaster affects a 12-inch by 12-inch square head. The material component of this spell are a stone, a twig, and a bit of green plant, leaf or grass blade. Ice Storm, Evocation. When this spell is cast, the magic user causes either great hailstones to pound down in an area of 4-inch diameter and inflict from 3 to 30, 3 to 10 hit points of damage on any creatures within the area of effect, or the ice storm can be made to cause driving sleet to fall in an area of 8-inch diameter, and both blind creatures within this area of effect for the duration of the spell and cause the ground in the area to be icy, thus slowing movement within by 50% and making it 50% probable that a moving creature will slip and fall when trying to move. The material components of this spell are a pinch of dust and a few drops of water. Note that this spell will negate a heat metal spell, but its first application will also cause damage in the process. Mass Morph, Illusion, Phantasm. When this spell is cast upon willing creatures of man-sized or smaller, up to 10 such creatures per level of experience of the magic user can be made to appear as normal trees of any sort. Thus, a company of creatures can be made to appear as a copse, grove, or orchard. Furthermore, these mass-morphed creatures can be passed through, and even touched, by other creatures without revealing the illusion. Note, however, that blows to the creature trees will reveal their nature, as damage will be sustained by the creatures struck and blood will be seen. Creatures mass morphed must be held within the spell's area of effect. Unwilling creatures are not affected. The spell persists until the caster commands it to cease or until a dispel magic is cast upon the creatures. The material components of the spell is a handful of bark chips. Minor Globe of Invulnerability, Abjuration. This spell creates a magical sphere around the caster which prevents any first, second, or third level spells from penetrating, i.e., the area of effect of any such spells does not include the area of the Minor Globe of Invulnerability. However, any sort of spells can be cast out of the magical sphere, and they pass from the caster of the globe through its area of effect and to their target without effect upon the Minor Globe of Invulnerability. Fourth and higher level spells are not affected by the globe. It can be brought down by a dispel magic spell. The material component of the spell is a glass or crystal bead. Monster Summoning 2, Conjuration Summoning. This spell is similar to the third level Monster Summoning 1 spell. Its major difference is that 1 to 6 second level monsters are conjured. The material components are the same as those of the lesser spell. There is also a 1 to 4 round delay. Plant Growth Alteration. Except as noted above, this spell is the same as the third level Druid spell, Plant Growth. Polymorph Other Alteration. The Polymorph Other spell is a powerful magic which completely alters the form and ability, and possibly the personality and mentality, of the recipient. Of course, creatures with a lower intelligence cannot be polymorphed into something with a higher intelligence, but the reverse is possible. The creature polymorphed must make a system shock, or constitution, roll to see if it survives the change. If it is successful, it then acquires all of the form and abilities of the creature it has been polymorphed into. There's a base 100 chance that this change will also change its personality and mentality into that of the creature whose form it now possesses. For each 1 point of intelligence of the creature polymorphed, subtract 5% from the base chance. Additionally, for every hit die of difference between the original form and the form it is changed into by the spell, the polymorphed creature must adjust the base chance percentage by plus or minus 5% per hit die below or above its own number, or level in the case of characters. The chance for assumption of the personality and mentality of the new form must be checked daily until the change takes place. Note that all creatures generally prefer their own form and will not willingly stand to risk of being subjected to this spell. If a 1-hit die orc of 8 intelligence is polymorphed into a white dragon with 6 hit dice, for example, it is 85% likely. 100% minus 5% times 8 intelligence plus 6 minus 1 times 5% equals 85%. Likely that it has actually become one in all respects, but in any case, it will have the dragon's physical and mental capabilities, and if it does not assume the personality and mentality of a white dragon, it will know what it formerly knew as well. Another example, an 8th level fighter successfully polymorphed into a blue dragon would know combat with weapons and be able to employ them with prehensile dragon forepaws if the fighter did not take on dragon personality and mentality. However, the new form of the polymorphed creature may be stronger than it looks, i.e., a mummy changed into a puppy dog would be very tough, or a brontosaurus changed into an ant would be impossible to squash merely from being stepped on by a small creature or even a man-sized one. The magic user must use a dispel magic spell to change the polymorphed creature back to its original form, and this too requires a system shock saving throw. The material component of the spell is a caterpillar cocoon. That was a mouthful, my goodness. Polymorph Self, Alteration. When this spell is cast, the magic user is able to assume the form of any creature, from as small as a wren to as large as a hippopotamus, and its form of locomotion as well. The spell does not give the other abilities, attack, magic, etc., nor does it run the risk of changing personality and mentality. No system shock check is required. Thus, a magic user changed to an owl could fly, but his or her vision would be human. A change to a black pudding would enable movement under doors and along halls and ceilings, but not the pudding's offensive and defensive capabilities. Naturally, the strength of the new form must be sufficient to allow normal movement. The spellcaster can change his or her form as often as desired, the change requiring only 5 segments. Damage to the polymorph form is computed as if it were inflicted upon the magic user, but when the magic user returns to his or her own form, from 1 to 12, d12 points of damage are restored. Rary's Mnemonic Enhancer, Alteration. By means of this spell, the magic user is able to memorize or retain the memory of 3 additional spells, i.e., 3 spells of the first level, or 1 first and 1 second, or 1 third level spell. The magic user can elect to immediately memorize another spell's, or he or she may opt to retain memory of a spell cast by means of the enhancer. The material component of the spell are a piece of string, an ivory plaque of at least 100 gold piece value, and an ink composed of squid secretion and either black dragon's blood or giant slug digestive juice. All components disappear when the spell is cast. That's pretty cool. Do you think Raceland collected up any of the giant slug's digestive juices from the Slaw Mori in order to add a spell to him? Yeah, I would have. Remove Curse, Abjuration, Reversible. Except as noted above, this spell is the same as the 3rd level cleric spell, Remove Curse. Wall of Fire, Evocation. This spell differs from the 5th level Druid spell, Wall of Fire, only as indicated above and as stated below. The flame color is either violet or reddish blue. Base damage is 2 to 12 hit points, plus 1 hit point per level. The radius of the ring-shaped wall of fire is 1 inch, plus 1/4 of an inch per level of experience of the magic user casting it, and the material component of the spell is phosphorus. Wall of Ice, Evocation. When this spell is cast, a sheet of strong, flexible ice is created. The wall is primarily defensive, stopping pursuers and the like. The wall is 1 inch thick per level of experience of the magic user. It covers a 1 inch square area per level, i.e. a 10th level magic user would cause a wall of ice up to 10 inches long and 1 inch high, or 5 inches long and 2 inches high, and so forth. Any creature breaking through this ice will suffer 2 hit points of damage per inch of thickness of the wall. Fire using creatures will suffer 3 hit points. Cold using creatures only 1 hit point when breaking through if the spell is cast to form a horizontal sheet to fall upon opponents. It has the same effect as an ice storms, hail stones in the area over which it falls. Magical fire such as fireballs and fiery dragon breath will melt a wall of ice in 1 round, though they will cause a great cloud of steamy fog, which will last for 1 round, but normal fires or lesser magical ones will not hasten its melting. The material component of the spell is a small piece of quartz or similar rock crystal. And the final 4th level spell, and the last spell for today, is Wizard's Eye, Alteration. When this spell is employed, the magic user creates an invisible sensory organ which sends visual information to him or her. The wizard eye travels at 3 inches per round, viewing an area ahead as a human would, or 1 inch per round, examining the ceiling and walls as well as the floor ahead, and casually viewing the walls ahead. The wizard's eye can see with infravision at 10 foot, or it sees up to 60 feet distant in brightly lit areas. The wizard's eye can travel in any direction as long as the spell lasts. The material components of the spell is a bit of bat fur. And that is going to close it for today. I am completely tongue-tied at this point. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I do genuinely appreciate it. I can't wait to get on the other side of these spells, if I'm being honest. I want to talk about the actual game mechanics and player options, not just reading spell options. But I figure one more session like this and we'll be completely done with all the spells, and we can move on to some of the other as or more interesting content. But that is it for this episode of Gaming Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Do you have any favorite spells or favorite class of spells? Do you prefer druid spells or cleric spells or wizard magic user spells? Let me know. You can leave me a comment in chat, or if you're joining live, you can chime in the live chat, or feel free to email me at info@dragonlance-saga.com. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'd like to once again invite you to consider becoming a patron or member of this channel, and you can pick up Dragonlance gaming materials using my affiliate link, all of which are in the description below. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga, and hope you'll join me in the celebration. Thank you for watching. This has been Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Slán Javar.